Hello, everyone. How are you guys doing? This is gonna be a really cool and interesting stream for sure. So this is actually gonna be the first stream that I do where it'll just be me basically and responding to a video. And this is also gonna be the first stream that I've done for Black History Month, so it should be pretty cool. Yeah. So how you guys doing? Oh, see a comment here. Oh yeah, this this will definitely be popcorn worthy. This will be fun for sure. So today we're going to be doing the stream for Black History Month, and what we're going to be doing is responding to a video that was made by a Hebrew Israelite who claimed that Black history is Hebrew history. So real quick though, before we dive into all of that, I'm gonna give you a brief introduction to like what Hebrew Israelism is, or Black Hebrew Israelism as it's been called sometimes, and then give some like qualifications and things like that. Excuse me. So, in short, Hebrew Israelites encompass different communities, usually minority ones who claim that they're Jewish. Uh, Excuse me. The One West variety of Hebrew Israelites hold to something called the 12 Tribes chart, which you'll be able to see on my screen here, where they say that the 12 tribes of Israel in the scriptures correspond to 12 people groups today, and you can see that on the chart here. So one of the members of this group of religious people is going to be the person that we are responding to today. Um, Real quick though, like I said, I do want to offer a couple qualifications. Firstly, I'm not trying to tell like anyone who they can or cannot be or anything like that. Um, I do though want to share my concerns and share facts with regards to this video. But if a black person wants to, claim a Jewish identity, then I think they can. I mean, we see in the Bible and extra biblical Jewish texts that Gentiles of all sorts could be grafted into and be called Jewish in some sense, even though it's not by blood or genetics, right? So that's not really my issue. But hopefully, as you'll be able to see in this video, my concerns are with the history, the rhetoric, the racism, and the biblical interpretation that is offered. So it's not the identification per se, so much as what they do with it. And I also want to say and note that before we get into this, that there is evidence to suggest that there are um, Black Jews, African Jews, and that sort of thing. A lot of people would point out maybe Ethiopian Jews, but even beyond that, there's some interesting data here that I will share real quick. Share this tab. If you look up these research thing, the history of African gene flow into Southern Europeans, Levantines or Levantines, and Jews, this has some interesting research results that kind of talk about the history and the genetics uh, around certain Jewish communities. So I'm not denying that either in this video, just to be clear. But the facts and evidence that this person presents is not that great. So I think it's really important, especially for Black History Month, to respond to these sorts of things. So thank you, everyone, and anyone who is tuning in. And now we are going to start the response video. We're not starting at the beginning of this video, and I won't go through the whole thing because it's long, and we'd be here forever. But I do want to get through some of the points that he makes in the video, especially some of the more important things that we need to talk about. So let me make sure I got this right. Okay. So we'll be starting a little over 3 minutes into the video, and I will go ahead and play it and stop it to respond and things like that.
All right, y'all. Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 10. From beyond the rivers of Cush, my worshippers, the daughter of my dispersed ones, shall bring my offering. Praise Yah. Family, this verse right here is speaking to us. and let me show you the proof.
So he kind of he goes into a couple different things here. One of those things is the language of the text. Uses he ends up using Brown Driver Briggs and Strong's Concordance in order to say that basically, I mean, basically that this is translated correctly and that this is going beyond or across the rivers of Cush. When you look at the passage, it's noting this sort of restoration of Israel that is going to occur if Israel becomes faithful again and things like that. The Lord is sort of promising something that's going to happen to Israel, and He's saying even the people beyond Cush are going to be restored and brought back, and that sort of thing. He tries to use this as part of his argument, but I don't really see the point in it, I guess, in believing the point about this verse like he does, because he because we already know that there are Jews that are in Africa and elsewhere, and that they were scattered and stuff like that. And there are many other verses and other historical facts you could bring up about that. But beyond that, I don't necessarily think it supports the kind of case that he's trying to make. So a quick thing to note about just this section here from like 3 minutes and 32 seconds in the video to about the 10-minute mark. He's using really bad sources, which is going to become much more problematic later in this video. He's using Brown Driver Briggs, which is like over 100 years out of date, Strong's Concordance, which is more out of date than that, and Wikipedia in order to back up his case. And we're going to see that this is going to be a continued theme throughout this video. Now I'm going to skip a little bit to somewhere in the 6-minute mark because he makes a really interesting claim that I've heard a lot growing up, actually, but I want to respond to here.
Yeah, the southern kingdom right here is approximately right here, approximately, y'all. And we know that Israel is in Africa. It's on the tectonic plate of Africa. So
that none of what he just said is true. You can check the resources down in the description of this video to see the resources that I cite. But Dr. Ellicott has noted, and rightly so, that Israel was in the southern Levant area. Let me pull up that source real quick. So it was in the southern Levant area, which is where modern day Israel, Palestine, Jordan, and the southern parts of Syria and Lebanon are. So it was not located in Israel. This source as well notes the same thing, that the southern Levant refers to an area encompassed by modern Israel, Jordan, and Palestine. Canaan is the ancient name of this region, and a Canaanite culture was prominent until the Iron Age when the kingdoms of Israel and Judah dominated. So this area here is the area that ancient Israel and Canaan was in, and it's West Asia. It is not East Africa, as he suggests here in this video. And I actually found this kind of funny because he points to where he believes the Southern Kingdom was, and it's here. That's not Africa. That is in Asia. That is around the Southern Levant. So I find it interesting that he literally points that out, but then also says that it's in Africa. But maybe he means not. But he also says that Israel was on the tectonic plate of Africa. And there's an issue with this too. So a tectonic plate, this is a theory that the Earth's lithosphere, which is the crust, or part of the Earth that we're living on, and the upper mantle, which is right above the crust, is divided into a number of plate-like sections that move and have distinct masses. Now, the thing is, Israel is not on the African tectonic plate. Israel is bordering the plate, actually. Israel is situated along the border between the African tectonic plate and the Arabian tectonic plate. Um, so even in stating that, he is also incorrect here. There is nothing from the scriptures or elsewhere to suggest that at any given point in time, Israel was in Africa. That is just not the case. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit again to one of the next relevant things that he brings up in the video. Let's see.
Eldad the Danite. Eldad Hadani. Who is Eldad Hadani? Family, as Hebrew Israelites, we have to know these facts. For many of us have this book right here. This is From Babylon to Timbuktu, A History of Ancient Black Races, Including the Black Hebrews, by Rudolph R. Windsor. Hallelujah. Eldad Hadani. Who's Eldad Hadani? He was an African black Hebrew. He said there was a Hebrew empire south of the Sahara in West Sudan.
So I'll go ahead and stop it right there. You can kind of read his slide there, but this isn't actually the case. Firstly, it should be noted, and it has been noted here. So you guys can go check out this video on YouTube. I think Vocab Malone has done a lot of good work responding to Hebrew Israelites and things like that. But in this video, he does a really good job of demonstrating the sort of weak and bad scholarship that is in Rudolph Windsor's book, which he is citing in this video. So you guys can go check that out. It's also be linked in the description of the video. But so I ended up finding a really good book that was helpful for me in all of this research, and it's called Black Jews in Africa and the Americas. And in this book, I'll go ahead and show you the page here, if you can see that there. And here he talks about Eldad, the Danite. And as you can see here, if you can read it, he makes some very interesting claims about the tribes and where they are, about the children of Moses, and other things like that. But he says here that we may be quite sure that Eldad of the tribe of Dan was not, as claimed, a member of the tribe of Dan. And we may be fairly sure that his name was not Eldad. If we take the corpus of texts associated with him more or less at face value, it may be possible to deduce, as a number of modern scholars have done so, that Eldad was a Jew from either the Eastern Islamic world or very much less plausibly from Ethiopia. So his account of events and things like that is probably not accurate, and he's not exactly telling the truth. Let's say Eldad is not exactly telling the truth in his recounting of things. So, and this is kind of part of the issue that I see with Hebrew Israelites a lot, and with this video in particular, is that a lot of the sources, the research, and all of that is not very academic. It's not very good research, and we can sort of see that here. So yeah, that is a pretty big issue. So I will move on to the third thing that he mentions. So this one's actually particularly interesting because I did not know about this. So let's get into it.
Let's go, family. Ouidah, Equiano. Family, this autobiography is a must-have. As Hebrew Israelites, we have to have this book. Ouidah Equiano lived from 1745 to 1797. He was born in the kingdom of Benin, district Igbo land, Nigeria. He was kidnapped at 11 years old. He was sold into slavery. In his autobiography, Ouidah compares similarities with his people's practices and the Bible.
Yeah, so this is also problematic. At first I was like, "Oh, this is interesting," right? Because this is, a former slave who is writing his autobiography, and talks about his people's practices and stuff like that, and notes that they're a lot like the Old Testament. And you can see there on the slide that they're very similar, and that is extremely interesting and would be powerful evidence if we could trust this former enslaved person as well, or so let me show you kind of what I'm talking about here. So Ptah, who is the person I cited earlier, he talks about him as well, and says that uh, Equiano's book fully merited its sensational reception and went into a number of editions. Excuse me, went to a number of editions. His text, however, is famously problematic. There is ample reason to be cautious about those parts of the book that purport to be a first-hand account of his early life in an Igbo village, given the grave doubts recent scholarship has cast upon both the date and the place of his birth. He goes on to say, nonetheless, there is general agreement that some of what he wrote may be reliable. And later on in page 41, he talks about the purpose of this work, and that his book was designed more than anything as a polemic against the inquiries of the enslavement of Black people. And it was no doubt desirable to portray Africans as undeserving of this fate, and so on. So it seems that this person is engaging in more of a polemic than he is, and understandably so, but engaging in more of a polemic than he is completely factual history. Uh, Here's another scholar who wrote a book on this topic, Vincent Carretta, if I'm saying his name correctly. He wrote a book on this person, and he also cast doubt on some of the facts that he purports in his autobiography. So you guys can check that out as well if you are interested in that. So yeah, again, though, we're seeing the issue here, right? Like, this person has not done their research necessary to present this information, but also be able to back this information up as reliable. And much of this is very much not reliable, and as we'll see later, is also going to be very problematic. So the next section is probably where we might spend more time than we have in these other sections here. So this next section is going to be interesting. Let me skip to the timestamp here.
History. There's more, family. Let's go. Now, family, this is a map of West Africa. This was created by Emmanuel Boden. Emmanuel Bowen. Here is a map of Negro land. And when we zoom in,
Hopefully, YouTube and social media in general does not get mad that those words are going to be in this video, unfortunately, given the subject matter we're addressing. So apologize for that, but let's continue.
check this out, family. Can you see that? Kingdom of Judah. Ouidah.
So I went behind him and checked this. This is an actual map that was written by an explorer during this time. It says Slave Coast there because this area is where a lot of European enslavement activity was taking place during this time. But while I thought at first, okay, maybe this could be some really good evidence, there's a couple things to note that made me question and maybe decide to go deeper. So notice how the word Judah is missing an H. it's like, okay, there could be a bunch of reasons for that, but that's weird, right? Because when we say the tribe of Judah, we have the H there at the end. But notice that underneath it says Huida. Um, I mean, how is that a reference to the kingdom of Judah, right? And he just kind of glosses over that here. But this is actually really important because, according to um, the modern Huedan people who live there, when colonization occurred, people started trying to pronounce the original name of the place, which is Hueda or Huida. In their language, this caused spellings and other things like Huida, Ouidah, and other things. So if you look up the place online, you'll see like multiple spellings of it in English. And Judah is just one of these, again, according to the people themselves. And this is interesting and a bit obscure, but there was actually a person who is living in this region that heard about Hebrew Israelites, trying to make this claim. And so he did a video recording of them responding to this. And they're like, yeah, we have no idea what this person's talking about. Um, as far as we are aware in our own history, we never had a tribe called Judah come and settle here. We're not aware of this sort of Jewish activity that you're talking about here. Uh, now, some I saw how some people responded to this video in the comments and in other places, and some of them were like, "Yeah, okay, cool. You ask a household what they think about this. Awesome. That doesn't mean that you're right or something like that." And I thought that that might be a fair point, but one of the other issues with this is that what they say in this video corroborates with the scholarship that we have on this topic. So let me share you another scholarly article here and quote some of this. Again, links to this stuff will be in the comment section of the video. But here it says William Bosman, a Dutch trader who visited Ouidah between 1697 and 1699, recorded that Huedans ascribed to Mawu, who is their deity, attributes of almighty and omniscience, or excuse me, omnipresence. They believe that he created the universe and therefore vastly prefer him before their idol gods. But yet, they do not pray to him or offer any sacrifices to him, for which they give the following reasons. God, they say, is too high exalted above us, and too great to condescend so much as to trouble himself or think of mankind. Wherefore he commits the government of the world to their secondary gods. So that's this scholar quoting Bosman, and the scholar continues, on those Vodun falling beneath Mawu in the hierarchical Huedan pantheon, late 17th century to early 18th century European travelers described with virtual unanimity the Python deity Dongbi, if I'm saying that right, as a primary deity for the kingdom. So, this paper, which is a really cool paper, and I thought actually doing like this research into this, these African religions and mythologies and stuff was pretty cool. Um, but the data indicates that they were practicing Vodun at this time. They were not practicing Judaism, and no form of Judaism is recognizable by these people. And as you saw from the description of what they actually believe, that's not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's not how the Abrahamic tradition has traditionally understood God to be. So um, there is evidence to suggest that they were never really practicing Judaism. And that evidence is very much stacked against this person's claim that the tribe of Judah was there and were practicing and being enslaved and so on and so forth. Um, yeah, this is just not the Judaism of the scriptures or extra biblical sources. It's also interesting because he claims in this section, um, in this particular part of the video here, he claims that that the Portuguese traveled there, and they called it this, and he said that the reason why the Portuguese called it the Kingdom of Judah is because the people there said that they were a part of the tribe of Judah and that they settled here. But again, as we just saw, when people did travel here and record their beliefs and what they had to say, it was nothing like what you would expect the tribe of Judah to believe. So, again, this is very problematic research. He literally just looked at this map, said, "Oh, that kind of looks like the English word Judah," and then went with it. One other side note too that made me raise an eyebrow: the word there, Widah, Ouidah, is not how you would even pronounce Judah in Hebrew, and so they sound different. They're obviously spelled and look different and stuff. They just seem like different words, which would be suggestive of the fact that they were never a Hebrew people here, at least in the way that this person is describing in this video. Yeah, so very very unfortunate stuff here. But I want to, like I said, we won't cover the entire video or anything like that, but I did want to cover this section as well, because this is like one of the most sad things about, I think, about Hebrew Israelism in general. So you'll see what I'm talking about here. Let me go to the timestamp. Was it exactly 1754?
We have to read the curses of Deuteronomy 28. For we are going to see how our ancestors ended up from Western and Central Africa into the Americas. And we are going to find out through the scriptures.
So that is one of the probably fundamental aspects of this like Hebrew Israelite group, is that according to them, part of the reason why they know they are the true people of the book, the true Jewish people, is because they fulfill the blessings and curses that is listed here in Deuteronomy 28. So Deuteronomy 28 opens by saying, "If you fully obey the Lord your God and carefully follow all his commands I give you today, the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations on the earth. All these blessings will come on you and accompany you if you obey the Lord." And go down to verse 15. It says, "However, if you do not obey the Lord your God and do not carefully follow all these commands and decrees that I am giving you today, all these curses will come upon you." So this is God, engaging in a vassal treaty with Israel. He was supposed to be their king. Israel is sort of his vassal, and these are the sort of conditions that need to be met in this particular arrangement. They think that because they fulfill the curses of Deuteronomy 28, that is proof, maybe not even just evidence, but absolute proof that they are indeed the people of Israel. So he spends like this whole chunk of video. I want to say it's like 20 minutes, just reading and looking at Deuteronomy 28, because it is that important to him and their theology. Now, there are numerous questions and numerous issues with this. Firstly, I would ask, how do you know that you are still under the blessings and curses of Deuteronomy 28, given the fact that we have a new covenant under the New Testament according to the book of Hebrews, particularly Hebrews chapters 5 through 7, and especially Hebrews chapter 7, verses 11 through 12, and verse 22. Another issue is that there are a bunch of curses that our Black people during the transatlantic slave trade and other things did not fulfill. So when at any point during that time did Black people eat each other, for example, cannibalize each other? So we see here in Deuteronomy 28:53, it says, you will eat the fruit of your womb, the flesh of your sons and daughters that the Lord has given you, and so on and so forth. When did when did we do that? In fact, the opposite happened. If you look at a book, and again, excuse me for the terms, but this is just the title of the book. Um, there's a book called The Delectable Negro: Human Consumption and Homoeroticism Within U.S. Slave Culture, which is attempting to show that there is some truth to the accounts that slave owners or that slaves had, and um, that there were white slave owners who were actually engaging in either literal or non-literal cannibalism. Um, so it's actually the other way around during the slave trade, which doesn't seem like it's fulfilling the curses of Deuteronomy 28. Um, Going back to Deuteronomy 28 real quick, we have other issues. Um, haven't the curses already been fulfilled within the scriptures themselves? Like in Amos chapter 4 or 2 Kings 25-26, Jeremiah 43, 4 through 7, and so on. What about other people other minority groups who have suffered that aren't on your 12 tribes chart, but have gone through some of the same things that are expressed in Deuteronomy 28? What do you think about those people? And so another good example is Deuteronomy 28:68. So when you go all the way down, it says, "The Lord will send you back in ships to Egypt on a journey I said you would never make again. There you will offer yourselves for sale to your enemies as male and female slaves, but no one will buy you." When did they go on? When did Black people during this time go on ships back to Egypt? When did we, right, offer ourselves as slaves to our white masters? And when was there a time during this whole process of slavery when we collectively weren't being bought? Like, that was the whole point of the slave trade, was to capture and buy human beings. When did that happen? And so uh, this is trying to take the blessings and curses of Deuteronomy 28 and apply it to any people group today has serious um, hermeneutical problems, has problems with regards to proper interpretation of scripture. And this is why I said this is one of the really sad things. So obviously for this video, I've been prepping and doing research into um, racism and the transatlantic slave trade and all those sorts of things. Um, and for Black History Month, I have been. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. And for Black History Month, I have been, reading those resources that I cited down below and I have talked about and stuff in this video. And like, one of the really racist ideas that the white slave owners, white racist people had, was that being Black was somehow a disease or a curse, and in the religious for the religious white people, it was a curse from God, uh, or sort of through the prophetic power of Noah. So if you read in Genesis chapter 9, Noah and has the whole ordeal with his three sons, right? You can read about that in Genesis 9. But in there, Noah pronounces a curse on Canaan and says, slave of slave, you will be to your brothers, and so on and so forth. And slave owners interpreted that as, we can enslave Black people because they are cursed according to Genesis 9, because they thought Black people were just all of them, I guess, were descendants of Canaan. And they thought that white people were progenitors to, or that Japheth, excuse me, was a progenitor to white people, and that Shem was a progenitor to the Jewish people. So, like, their whole justification for doing what they did was the idea that Black people are cursed, and that Hebrew Israelites want to take this concept and say, no, you're actually right, we are cursed, but it's not for the reason that you think it is. Um, and to me, that is just so sad. Like, how does it feel thinking that you really are present day cursed by God himself? Um, I would suggest that we stop with one these this terrible biblical interpretation, but also stop with this racist rhetoric that has still survived to this day. Black people, these minority groups, they're not cursed by God either because of the curse of Ham or because of Deuteronomy 28. We are all on a level playing field. There is not a race that's better than another, and there's not one that's worse than another. And all of us need to face the fact that we are sinners that need to be saved by God's grace in our life. And in that, there is no slave nor free. There's no Jew or Gentile. There's no Scythian or barbarian, right? And I just wish that Hebrew Israelites and other Black people, and also obviously, racist white people and so on and so forth, realize that more. So yeah, I find that to be I find it to be kind of ironic, and I enjoy irony, but it is also really sad that this like racist rhetoric still exists. It's just in a different context. Yeah. So, like I said, I didn't want to respond to the entire video or anything like that. A huge chunk of the video is literally him just reading Deuteronomy 28, and his logic is, "Who does that sound like to you?" And I'm like, it sounds like a lot of different people. It sounds like the ancient Israelites, which you probably are not. um, so, but yeah, so like I said, the resources that I use for this video will be down in the description of the video. Um, I hope that this was helpful and educational, albeit quick. Uh, there was a lot that I learned through this, and I spent a lot of time working on this. And if he sees this, I hope that he'll respond. I hope that uh, he could repent of these uh, theological, biblical, historical mistakes and come to know the true Jesus, the ones that were not the one that was presented, from the racist white people, not the one that is presented in Hebrew Israelism, but the true God and true Jesus of the scriptures. So if he does see this video, I hope it helps, and I hope that it changes things for sure. But yeah, so that'll be the end of my response. That's kind of what I prepared for. If you have a question or comment or something like that, you can leave it, uh, and I'll look at the live chat and check it. But yeah, otherwise, we're good to go. Like I said, resources down below. Definitely check those out. Um, the book Black Jews in Africa and the Americas was particularly interesting to me. I didn't read all the way through it, but I read the first couple chapters, and it's it's a lot. It's funny because but not like funny, haha, Um, but it's also like really frustrating to see the kinds of things that used to be, and in some ways continue to be like said and done and stuff. So um yeah, so I don't think there's any comments or anything, any questions in the live chat. So uh yeah, I will go ahead and leave this here. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Initially this was supposed to stream to Rumble and Instagram, and I don't think it is. I'm not sure why. I'm gonna have to figure that out, but I will go ahead and try to upload this to those platforms as well once this is over. um like I said, resources down below. Definitely go check those out. Real quick, I'll tell you about some upcoming projects. So my next video in the biblical slavery series, talking about what the Mosaic Law is probably going to come out next month. I still need to finish reading the Lost World of the Torah by Dr. John and Harvey Walton. I need to get through that, and look at some other sources regarding uh, the nature and function of the Torah in ancient Israel before I make that video. So that'll be coming out. daily content will still be coming out. Black History Month content will still be coming out as well. So that's kind of what we have looked forward to in the future. I am in conversation with some people about a couple different other video ideas, but I'll keep those on the DL for now. Uh, Beyond that, I have articles that I'm publishing. So I publish articles on a Christian website called Followers of the Shepherd, and I publish on a free website that you can check out called medium.com, which is like a social media for bloggers in a way. So you can check me out there. I have a few articles already published, and I'm going to be publishing one soon on one of the attributes of God, which you may probably have not heard of, but I found it very interesting. I think a really good case can be made for it, and I try to do that in the paper. So, yep, that'll be coming out this month as well. So, thank you guys so much for joining me for this. I hope it was educational. I hope it was helpful. And I will see you guys next time I do a live stream.